Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today it is Short Story Tuesday, a wonderful day to talk about some short form literature that I enjoyed recently. Today's story is about high school and that weird transition period where you're getting ready to move on with your life. Today's story is Death is Not an Option by Suzanne Rivecca, which was published in 2010. For those who don't know, Suzanne Rivecca is an author, an American author, it seems. This appears to be one of the few things that she's written. I wasn't able to find too much out about her because it's one of the few things that she's written, but she might have gotten stuff published around 2018 if things are up to date. She's won a couple of awards for her work. She's also featured on Harvard's website. She might be part of a committee or something there. I think she's received the National Endowment for the Arts, which is pretty cool. But this is the only thing she's really gotten published that I'm aware about. And so there must be some other literature that not a lot of people are talking about. And indeed, this book was kind of a random library read as I just picked it out from random from my local library, which I'm happy about because this was a decent read. Don't forget to patronize your local libraries. They have some cool stuff hiding in the shelves. But without further ado, let's talk about this short story from the collection Death is Not an Option. A bunch of pretty interesting short stories related to gender and maybe what Rivecca would claim in her on her website or something like that. She's writing about victimhood or something like that, maybe feminism or female like themes like that. Without further ado, let's talk about the story. I'll do a summary, a little bit of an analysis, and we will move on from there. So Death is Not an Option focuses on a young girl named Emma, who is a senior at Sacred Heart, which is a Catholic school, and she is on a camp retreat. Because she's a senior, all the seniors are going on a retreat to a camp as a way of ending the school year. It appears that Emma doesn't really want to be there. She's just annoyed by the songs that they're using and how they're huddling everyone together. And she does enjoy her friends, hanging out with her friends, but it doesn't appear that she enjoys spending time with many of the boys at this high school. As the story progresses, Emma finds herself passed over for the superlatives. She's not the class anything, and it just seems like not a lot of people seem to notice Emma in general, beyond her friends and her friend group, which she likes and also doesn't like because they don't really tell her too much, and they make fun of her in certain ways and pick on some of her insecurities. But she also likes them because they're like friends. They have each other's backs, and they support each other in this kind of weird Catholic high school kind of oppressed reality that they live in. She's a bit like happy that she's leaving, but also unhappy. While they're hanging out at one of the cabins, they participate in a game called Death is Not an Option, which is the title of this story right here, where they basically say, oh, you have to do this or this, hypothetical scenarios like would you rather, where they can't choose to die because that death is not an option. At this time, it's also revealed that Emma seems to have an obsession with secretions, mainly because she's not as familiar with her vagina, with her female, like private area stuff down there, nobody's really taught her how to put in a tampon or anything like that, which might be related to her Catholic upbringing. And so like she's dealing with that as she prepares to enter the world. And as all of her friends go to sleep, she finds that she can't, so she's wandering in the woods when one of her classmates named Josh, asks questions about her and sees that she's crying because she's uncertain about her future. And she asks Josh, like, are you going to South Carolina to be an android, to spread propaganda? Because Josh seems to be going into the church, and Emma kind of reveals that she's going to Brandeis University, which is non-Catholic. I think it's more Jewish than anything else. And she finds that Josh is talking to her and is just repeating sort of like the school's like policy on how to handle students who are crying. And so she doesn't really feel like there's an actual conversation happening between her and Josh. And so she tells him to just fuck off and leaves. And then the next morning, after everyone has breakfast, the entire class gathers into a circle and shares what they like and what they didn't like about high school. And most people are sad. Most people are sharing how they really liked all of these people, including Emma's own friends who give her a hug. But as the circle begins to get near her, Emma feels that she doesn't really have anything to share. Like she feels like she didn't really enjoy her time here. And she's also uncertain of what's going to happen for her in the future, because she just notes like she's worried that when she gets to college, like she's going to feel that she can only thrive in situations that are hostile to her, like this Catholic school upbringing. And so she's torn, as the story ends, between leaving and staying, and that's where it ends there. In terms of analysis, Suzanne Rivecca is working with a couple of ideas in this story. One thing I think she touches upon is high school graduation crossroads, that period where you're about to leave high school, start the rest of your life, and the feeling of wanting to leave and wanting to stay, because some people view high school as the best years of their life, even though they're probably not. There are probably better years ahead. And Emma, she wants to leave the church. She wants to stay or leave from her sucky small town, which she says is hazardous for her health. It's not a great place to be. The church is repressive, oppressive. It seems to be making her life life worse, and the men in her high school are not the best crop of human beings in the world. And so like where most people want to stay high school, Emma wants to leave. And she loves her friends, but she seems to want more. Where like she's shown hugging her friends, and she feels a connection to these people, but there's something missing. Like maybe that they're all bonding in an environment that's oppressive towards them. So that's not the most conducive environment to create friends or anything like that. And so you're always going to be left wanting something else, something more, maybe people who better understand you, which you might be able to find in a university. But at the same time, despite the fact that she's probably going to have a better life outside of this weird Catholic school, there's still that fear of failing. Like she notes in the story that her parents are being nicer to her now and are encouraging her to go off to college, and she doesn't really know what to expect in that situation. This is an unfamiliar point in her life, and I'm familiar with it because when I didn't necessarily go to Catholic school, but like when I went to college, it was so unfamiliar, and like I had a fear that like, what if I fail? Like, what if I go out into college and I try my best, but it's not enough? And that didn't happen to me, thankfully, and I doubt it'll happen to Emma, but that's a very rational fear to have as you're exiting high school. And there's a good quote that I would like to read to you from this. I see terminal therapy. I see myself drowning in a sea of dark progressive heads just like my own, collapsing upon a beautifully manicured campus topiary like a soldier falling on his sword. I see a counselor with a polyblend twin set in deep circles under her eyes, and I see myself going to her every day and talking about my fucking feelings, and how I cannot thrive in any but utterly hostile circumstances, how I don't know who I am unless I'm fighting, and what the hell should I do? Go back to Muskegon to reclaim my identity? And I can hear the counselor's voice. It's clear and crystalline as Claire's. It says, yes, go back. And I really find that interesting because it's that fear that everyone has. What if I'm no good? What if I try and it's not enough? And for Emma, it seems to be, what if I put forth an effort? What if I try and it's not enough? What if I only thrive in Muskegon? What if I'm the kind of person who only benefits from a hostile environment that's oppressive, like you see in his high school? You're just gonna have to go. You're gonna go to college. You're gonna fail, and then you're gonna have to go back and live there for the rest of your life to feel anything, to feel any sense of normality. And growing up in a small town that kind of sucked, I perfectly understand that, because in college she might not be any different than anyone else, and it might feel like she's drowning in that sea of sameness. As I mentioned before, I find it very interesting because that's a very rational fear to have, and it shows the dysfunction that growing up in such an oppressive environment has maybe impacted her in this negative way, that she's probably going to need therapy for some time to realize that that's not all who she was. Another element that Suzanne talks about is religion and gender. The Catholic school seems to create oppressed women or broken men, and Rivecca is playing with that idea, because it creates oppressed women, much like Emma, but also her friends. Some of her friends have sex, which Emma finds very strange, possibly because of the abstinence-only education that they're preaching there, it also shows that someone else can have sex, someone else can have a normal, healthy sex life, whereas Emma is struggling because she's obsessed with her own secretions. She wasn't told how to put in a tampon, and she wasn't educated on her own body. And that's often a problem that religion creates for young women, especially growing up in Catholic school, where you're told that, oh, your body is wrong, masturbation is wrong, sex is wrong, learning anything about your body is an affront to God, even though it's really not. They're just militant about their religion, and this is not just a problem for the women; it's also a problem for the men, because as Emma says, the men grow up into two types. Three types. They turn into Josh, who just go off to Catholic college and become preachers and teach this militant sort of religion to other people and oppress other people, or they become down on their luck monsters who work at gas stations and also casually joke about rape and talk about raping women, again because they didn't have a proper sexual education, and they were also taught by people who didn't teach them empathy or anything valuable like that. Or they become Newt Gingrich types who make conservative legislation and try to oppress women even more. So it's very clear that Suzanne Rivecca does not have a positive attitude towards religion, and that religion isn't really going to help you as you try to come into your gender identity and try to you try to navigate that weird period in your life where you're going through puberty and you're trying to figure out who you're going to become. And it's very interesting because as Emma even points out, she's going to Brandeis. She's going to flee to a Jewish school, and you can very easily see that the Jewish religion is much more accepting, unless you're in one of those sects of Judaism that isn't, but the Jewish religion is much more accepting. It is pro-abortion, and it's it's very it doesn't seek to control women as Christianity or Catholicism does, and so it's very easy to see why Emma would want to flee there. But is she going to Brandeis because that would help her in the future, or is it she just trying to flee her religious upbringing? And if that's the case, then it's not going to help her like figure out what she wants to do in her future, and maybe perhaps always that she's going to need therapy, and she's going to be struggling to reckon with how that impacted her. And I do think that's a very interesting kind of thing that Rivecca is saying, that our upbringing, no matter how much we try to escape it, is always going to have some impact on us. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on Death Is Not an Option by Suzanne Rivecca. You can very easily see like the connection of the title to what's going on. Like in the story, you see the characters play like, oh, would you do this or that? And death is not an option. So for Emma, she can either stay in Muskegon, the place that she's in, or go off to college. She can't. The death is not an option for her, and both of these choices are kind of difficult for her as the story ends. So yeah, a really wonderfully told story that I can definitely relate to, even like 10 plus years after going to college. If you haven't read it before, I'm going to recommend this. This entire collection is worth reading, in my opinion. If you have anything interesting to say or you want to comment on my review, do so below. Let's have a discussion about this story. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people can find out about this author and this book if they don't already know. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and high schoolish travels. Farewell.